So for me, owning your future, I think comes down to options and being able to control your future through options. When I grew up, family of 12 kids, mom and dad still together. I had one option. It was following what my dad did, which was getting into construction, very similar to you, which was getting into automotive, repairing cars.
Yeah.
And that was the option that was in front of you. And it wasn't until I had somebody come to me. Her name was Bethany Willis. She grabbed me by my shoulder. This is about 10 years ago. And she said, "You don't own your future. Your customers do. And I'm one of your customers, so I can say this to you." She said, "You're a slave. Your business is a slave to my business. You do not own your future. I do."
Wow.
And it was a punch to the gut. I could have been offended by it, or I could have said, "Teach me."
Right. When you're disturbed in those moments, you either put more of a shell up or you go, maybe they're right. And that's a hard one.
But the way she delivered it to me, much like the way you deliver to your audience and how much work you've put into the way you deliver a package, right? The way it's presented is super important. And she did it with nurturing and kindness and love. And she actually pulled me out of my truck. I was in front of my house, a house I was going to do renovations for her company. And she comes up behind me. She knocks on the glass. She goes, "Get the hell out of the truck right now."
Wow.
I'm like, "Whoa, what's up, Bethany?" I'd done 2 projects for her at that time. I was a big contractor for Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow. I was doing all their renovations. And this was the 3rd house she was going to have me do an estimate for. She knocks on the glass, "Get the hell out of the truck." She opens up my tailgate. She says, "Sit down right here." And she grabs me by my left shoulder with her right hand. I still can feel like the burning talons in my shoulder. And she said, "Why aren't you in real estate?" And I said, "I am in real estate." She said, "No, you're not. I'm in real estate and you work for me." And she attacked and attacked and attacked, but she did it in a loving way. And then from that moment,
a gift. Wow.
A gift.
What a gift.
And she still texts me today. She's like, "I'm watching your TV show.
Oh,
Hey, I saw
so
this."
amazing.
It's so unbelievable. And so for me,
make sure to send her flowers.
Oh, constantly. We love on her all the time. I bring her up on a lot of podcasts, but she forced me to have another option. And for me, where I was and the background that I had, I needed somebody to push me through that little hole.
Yeah.
And now understanding how to not only have options, but how to create options out of thin air is how I control my future now. Went and got a haircut today. The lady asked me as I'm sitting down, "What do you do for a living?" And somebody who's an entrepreneur, we have 700 employees between all of our companies now. How do you answer that question? So I just said, "Oh, I'm in real estate." The girl behind her says, no, Pace, tell her what you really do for a living." So she tells the girl that's cutting my hair what I do for a living. And she says, "Man, I wish I got into something like that." And I go, "Well, what's keeping you back?" But I already know the answer of what kept her back. It was the lack of options growing up.
Yeah.
And the fact that nobody had grabbed her by the shoulder and pulled her through the fire and said, "I'm going to force you to see a better future. I'm going to help you out." And there's nobody in her circumference, nobody in her community that is doing the things she wants to do. So here she is at 31. She asked me this question. It hurt me. I was like, "Oh, Elise, like that's such a painful question." She says, "What if it doesn't work out? What if I choose to go
life?"
Right. What if I do decide I want to do more besides just cut hair and show up when somebody else tells me to show up, and I choose that path and it doesn't work out?" And I stopped and I said, "Is it working out currently the way you planned when you were 16?
No, what a great answer you gave her, because when you said that choices, if you really go upstream, that's what I always talk about.
You hit me right in the face when I heard that the first time.
If you think about upstream right now, so her lens, the glasses she has on, right? Her prescription says, "I'm cutting hair, I'm getting by, but I'm not living into who I'm supposed to be." But what if I go do this other thing and fail? Right? That seems like there's no choice. I have to stay. So is it the actions that have to change, or the thought process to get the actions to happen? Because if you really think about it, at the end of her life, what will be more painful? The staying in the haircutting and the not knowing? Or even if she tried and failed 3 times, at least she's failing into something that she could think of. So the advice you gave her was so powerful, because the first thing she has to shift is her perception about if it doesn't work. You hit the nail on the head. It's not working now.
Yeah.
You're talking to a stranger saying you didn't have choices. And then that conversation in my head goes to just switch out the word resources for resourcefulness.
Right.
Right? I mean, if you could give your kids any gift as they go into adulthood, when you leave and go off to heaven, wouldn't you love to say, "I can leave because my kids are resourceful"? Not just that you're
100%.
leaving them all the wealth or abundance or handing off the baton to them. No matter where you are, no matter what happened, resourcefulness, a little shift in your mindset, a shift in your beliefs, a shift in your thoughts. And that's the only reason we do it. Now, take what serves you from a podcast like this, throw the rest away. But if one thing gets you disturbed with staying where you are, then we did our job.
She says, well, where do I start? And I said, do you know who Tony Robbins is? Do you know
Awesome.
who Dean Graziosi is? And she says, no, I've never heard of them before, which is just mind boggling to me. Because in my world, you're the guy, right? And I have her write down the name and I go, look, I can't solve this for you in 30 minutes and I have to be somewhere. But what do you think has kept you back? This is an interesting conversation. She says, well, I really don't have a lot of time. And I go, okay, well, why? She goes, well, I have a son. I'm like, okay, well, there's people with children and have started with less and have become more. So what was the thing? And I realized haircut's about to end. I'm sitting there
fix
with just
it. Right. You want to.
like, I wish I could just stay for an hour and take you and show you, here's what I do. And here's exactly how it works. And as I'm wrapping up, one of the girls in the barbershop, she says, hey, you're still going to come over to the bar on Saturday night at blah, 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 blah time. And she goes, oh, absolutely. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Yeah. Priorities.
And it just flooded into my brain. It's all I could think about. I talked to May, my assistant, and Eric on the way up here just for 45 minutes about how stressed out I was over that conversation. Because when you learn these things that you and Tony talk about, all you want to do is show other people.
You do. It's addicting.
It's addicting. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. You could go from here to here within a decision, 1 second.
In cars, because cars, nitrous oxide makes the car go faster, right? But you only use it when you need it. If you just held your button on the nitrous oxide button, the car would blow up. I think of that of the dark side. Like, yes, I want to gain all this stuff, but if I don't do this, I'm going to die with regret. Everybody's going to say he settled. He was complacent. He was lazy, or she didn't do this. And I have no problem hitting that the dark side button and going into, I can't be with my kids. I won't control my time. I'll lose my relationship with my wife. I will feel that pain. Maybe a therapist would tell me I'm nuts, but that dark side gives me a nitrous oxide or turbo boost to get the rocket off the ground. Do you ever go to the dark side?
Dean, I have, mine's darker than that. Way darker than that. When my daughter Corbin was born, I received a letter in the mail from one of my biggest customers, and he was filing bankruptcy on me and $42 million worth of his contractors. He was running a Ponzi scheme, and I was caught in his Ponzi scheme. So what I was doing is I'd go do $100,000 of renovations for him.
Yep. You'd fund it and wait to get your money back.
Right. So he'd do a flip. I would fund the flip, and he wouldn't argue about my prices, which was great. So I'm thinking on paper, I'm making money. And this went on for 3.5, 4 years, and got me to a point where I was now well over $1 million into this guy.
Oof.
And he says, just trust me. I've got 3 more houses. If I can finish these houses, I'll get you paid back. Plus I'll give you even $100,000 kicker. And I'm sitting here, I got payroll.
And you want to trust them?
Oh, bro. The thing is, you trust people because you assume they're going to operate the same way as you would operate. Mm-hmm. So I get a letter in the mail saying he's filing bankruptcy, and I'm the second largest creditor on that list. And I didn't tell my wife. Why? Because we just had our baby 4 hours ago. 4 hours ago. And I get this letter saying, you're losing everything. And I ended up having to sell my house to cover my payroll. And I then ended up selling a couple of my rentals to then pay my payroll for 3 or 4 months. And I said, I'm out of the business. And it wasn't a lot of people go, oh man, you're inspired by all these things. I go, you know what it was? Is I maybe this is too dark, but I felt like I wanted to put my foot on the throat of that human being that put me in that situation. And you and
not too dark at all.
You and Alex Hormozy said something on a podcast you did with him just recently. You said, get so big that person that did whatever, said whatever, held you back, however, can't ignore you.
Yeah.
And I'm so big now in that regard that gentleman is afraid to see me at the grocery store.
Yeah.
He's afraid to see me at a real estate meetup. He's afraid to see me anywhere. And that's the nitrous that every once in a while, when I feel like I got to pump through, I push that button and I pop that guy's face in my brain, and it pushes me through some of the hardest moments of being a business owner.